Well, Shez, what would you know? The final open seat on the 2025 grid has finally been filled. So we finally have someone who will join Nico Hülkenberg on the final row of the grid next year. Would you know it? Well, breaking news, Gabriel Bortoleto is going to join Stake Sauber Ferrari next year. Your boy Mattia has made a decision, and we will discuss more.
So, Ammar, Gabriel Bortoleto, the current F2 leader, has been snapped up out of the hands of McLaren and into Sauber. And if you want to hear more stuff like this, please like, please subscribe, and we'll ask you to leave a comment because, we like reading them. We even like responding to them. So, what do we think about this? I'll give you a really, really quick lowdown, right? So, Gabriel Bortoleto, someone's going to have to tell me in the comments. Someone Brazilian is definitely going to have to tell me. Brand
Gabriel.
spanking new Brazilian driver who, to be honest, wasn't on anybody's radar until he turned up in F3, and on the back of a fairly consistent campaign, rookie campaign, he won the title, having won only one race that entire season in 2023. Turns up in 2024 and is currently the points leader with two races left to go ahead of Isaac Hadjar in his sophomore season in F2. And you know what I think about a rookie F2 winner, but there's even more to this one. Gabriel Bortoleto, if you'll cast your minds back to Monza, is the guy that had a qualifying crash, wasn't able to set a time, and in the feature race, not the sprint, the feature race started 22nd, plumb last. Where did he finish? Numero uno.
Wow, that's Matt
That
Verstappen like. My goodness.
that is the ultimate, but in the dry, my friend, in the dry.
Yes, I
And
agree.
yes, as I have said and been massively harangued for, a red flag did help Max Verstappen on Sunday, and a safety car did help young Bortoleto in Monza, but that doesn't take
Fortune
away
favors
from
the
the
brave.
quality of the drive on
Yeah.
either side. But this has created a little bit of a talking point because um, essentially what Sauber have now done is that they have got two brand spanking new drivers for next year. One,
I mean,
the age-old veteran Nico Hulkenberg, um, and in the other seat they've got a brand spanking new driver, but they've kicked out Valtteri Bottas.
uh,
Right. So they've now got a rookie GP2 winner in one seat and potentially a rookie F2 winner in the other seat at the expense of a 10-time Grand Prix winner. And just remember that that 10-time Grand Prix winner was also sometimes ahead of Lewis Hamilton in the same car when they were at Mercedes together, whereas Nico Hulkenberg has never got a podium finish in Formula One.
well,
Maybe that's a leading statement, but Amara, tell me what you think.
I'm just sad and disappointed. This is a sad day. I mean, look, I'm very excited for Gabriel Bortoleto. I'm not sure I'm fully excited given how bad the Stake Sauber team has been. But we're losing Valtteri Bottas, and he is one of those bright shining stars on the grid that, yes, of course, hasn't been able to show us what he can do. Unfortunately for him, and you place 0% blame on his results because that is really a team issue, not so much him. But
Yeah,
not
I
having
100%
him on the
agree.
grid is going to be really
100%
odd.
agree.
And I've really enjoyed his character and personality so much as many of us have enjoyed Danny Rick on the grid too. So this is kind of a blow in that regard, but. It's not surprising, no, Shez. I think that it makes sense. I mean, one of the things that we're seeing now is this Colapinto effect, right? Of what's going on. You put these young drivers in these cars and they seem to be far better equipped and prepared to go right from the word go
Hmm.
for the most
Yeah.
part, right? I mean,
Well, I
and
I
again,
think there's a I think there's a conversation to be had there
let's
about
go.
this, right?
Let's go.
Because okay, look, my thought about Valtteri is he's just a few too many seasons too late. Because I think he'd be perfect for that Red Bull seat, wouldn't he? Like he's a quicker option than
I
Sergio
mean,
Perez over one lap, which is the problem that Red Bull have been having. And he knows how to win a race, more races than Sergio Perez does in a comparably dominant car. So actually, he's not a bad shout for that seat. But Red Bull have sort of boxed themselves into a corner that they're not going to do it. So my point in saying that is that there are drivers on the grid right now. Lance Stroll, I'm looking at you. There's no
I mean,
episode of Tyred GP that you are not going to go uncriticized, mate. Um, and even Sergio Perez, all the way up there in that white tower that is Red Bull, that probably shouldn't be in those seats. And yet Valtteri Bottas, who was crushed his teammate, is out the door. Um, and I agree with you. I don't know quite how I feel about that. It'd be nice to see him on the grid somewhere next season, although I feel that it's probably going to be, as he said, reserve driver for Mercedes Benz.
I think that's a good choice for him if that gives him a chance to be in every once in a while when something happens and buys him a little bit more time to see what happens during the course of a season. But I think the problem again for Valtteri is that he has been with a team that has just stunk so bad that it sticks to you, even if you don't want it to, right? There's just no way you can objectively quantify his performances other than, of course, the very fact that he's finished ahead of Checo Perez on many different occasions. But look, you could have said that about Logan Sargent too, and that didn't go anywhere, did it? So,
Yeah,
so there's that element of it too, right? Yeah, I think it stinks, but I think again for where Sauber are at, I think that this breeds a little bit of excitement and potential. So I can see why they wanted to.
yeah. Okay. So, I'm going to
Also, by
come
the way,
back
the
to.
Hulkenberg decision was made before Mattia got there too, so there's
Yeah, yeah,
that.
exactly. It was an Andreas Seidel signing, wasn't it? I'm going to come back to that because I've got something to say. But let's just talk about what Bortoleto potentially could be, because look, the risk of bringing in a Formula 2 driver from the current Formula 2 grid seems to be much less than it would have been in seasons past, because you've brought in Franco Colapinto, who just checks notes, is currently still seventh in the F2 standings, having had a solid season, but nothing spectacular, has turned up and is showing Alex Albon a clean pair of heels, or at least has done, did for the first um, two or three races that he was there, like showing a level of maturity and a level of technical understanding that is way beyond his years. And if that's what the person that's currently seventh can do, I mean, what's the person that's in the lead can do? What is it that they're going to bring? And to add even more evidence to that, Ollie Behrman has now had three races, one in a Ferrari and two in a Haas, and he scored points in two of those races. This is a guy that is currently, checks notes, 15th in the current F2 standings, right? This field, I think, is possibly one of the golden
Yeah, it really.
grids in Formula Two. I think there's barely a dud on that grid, which is why Red Bull can probably feel quite confident about sticking Isaac Hadjar in the RB seat if they decide to promote Liam Lawson next year. I think you do a great job. And that's why Bortoleto, if Bortoleto wins this championship in his rookie season, he has been rookie champion over one of the greatest F2 grids that there has ever been. And that must make a heap of drivers on the current F1 grid feel very nervous indeed.
Yeah, I think you said it right. This is sort of the golden age of Formula One drivers, right? And you can kind of see the shift coming in as the Lewis Hamiltons of the world sort of go on their last leg of where they're at, right? And Max Verstappen is right now. You can see this sort of next generation coming in and being right there. And I think that this is a fantastic thing in some ways. And you're right. I mean, Bortoleto coming in as the F2 champion is great. However, he is going in a Stake Sauber F1 team, right? And I don't know what to
Mm.
expect. It certainly looks
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
there's still a couple of years out. So what I worry about stuff like this is also this has the potential to nuke somebody's career, like a Gabriel Bortoleto too, because I guess you could I'm not sure what's the better car, the F2 car or the Sauber car. I don't know what that is, but
Yeah, I
it is,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, no, I agree with that. That actually, this isn't a complete no-brainer of a situation. Like where in the past it might have been like, well, it's an F1 seat, so just take it. like you're the reserve driver for McLaren, who next season are going to have a fairly volatile driver lineup, I think,
Yeah,
and you're trading that in for a complete unknown. Like Audi don't have a way out for a driver. Like they don't have any customer teams. They're not a customer themselves. They are a Ferrari customer at the moment, but that's not going to last for much longer.
sure.
Um,
Yeah,
they don't have any affiliations with any other teams either. So it's not that like and because of that, Bortoleto to sign with Sauber, Audi, has had to cut ties completely with McLaren.
very
So
risky.
if he struggles, or if Sauber struggle, and he can't show what he's worth because they're hanging off the back of the grid, no matter how close to Nico Hulkenberg he gets, there's no way out for him. There isn't
Doesn't
somewhere
matter.
there's nobody's going to notice him and go, "Wow, he's doing such a great job." Because
Oh,
he doesn't have the benchmark particularly. Now,
and
Nico Hulkenberg is a good benchmark, I guess, but he's also coming into a team brand new too.
right, exactly. And I think this is the problem, right? So I think that in this case, there's more risk for Gabriel Bortoleto than there is for Sauber, right? There's no
Yeah,
potential
I
risk for
agree.
Sauber, really, to be honest. And look, we got an indictment on Sauber already by way of Carlos Sainz not signing with them, where he had every incentive to all the ties, everything that it would have been, it could have been anyone's guess that would have been something that happened. He didn't choose them over the Williams. I think there's also something to be said about what Colapinto is doing in this regard, right? Which seems like he has taken the approach of wanting to sit it out a year because I think you're now at that phase where if you are this driver coming out of F2 has this potential, you've been able to show flashes of it, you have to make those right decisions. I mean, look, Formula One history has been sort of rigged with the idea of drivers making decisions that can make or break their career. You look at Fernando Alonso, you look like yeah, you credit Lewis Hamilton for making all the right decisions. You look at Daniel Ricciardo, like it is lit with all of that too. So I think there's a little bit of risk in where you go to.
Yeah,
Only 10 teams and
but
20 seats. So
but I think the Franco Colapinto comparison is an apt one, but he has the advantage that he has had, you know, 8 or 9
sure,
races
to show
in
it.
Formula One to show what he's about. So he goes into that rest period at Williams with a year on the benches, with everyone knowing in the fresh in their memory how good he has been. Whereas Bortoleto doesn't have that to sit on. So maybe that fed into his decision to just take the Sauber seat. Although I'd still come back to it being a difficult one. But I think for me, Sauber's best decision would have been not to have Nico Hulkenberg. I think that decision was premature. I think they signed on the dotted line because they didn't have anybody
Yeah,
locked down.
exactly. Yeah,
But actually keeping Valtteri Bottas, someone
that
that
made more sense.
knows what it's like to work at a top team, to get good results at a top team, knows what it's like um, across different rule sets to maintain that level within a team and a technical department, and to have that experience would have been a better bet than Nico no podiums. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
man, but that probably would have been a better bet. And then I would have thought that having Bortoleto in the other seat, even for Bortoleto, would have been a better bet.
yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, there's every reason for Sauber to be excited today, and there's every reason for Gabriel to be as well, because again, you cannot argue with the idea of getting one of 20 seats in any sport, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this is the hardest one to crack, so I can completely understand. It is such a roll of the dice, Shez. Like it could work out brilliantly, and it could be, sort of doom spelling really in some ways. So I feel, I hope and wish him the very best. There's nothing there otherwise. And,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Yeah, and I get that, but in conclusion, my conclusion to this at least is that I'm super happy that the F2 drivers are getting the recognition
oh yeah,
that they
of
should.
course.
After 2023, when we had no rookies at all, to be looking at a 2025 season where we might potentially have multiple F2 drivers on the grid is insane, brilliant, insane, but it is brilliant. But the fact that the best of the best in that bumper F2 grid is going to end up at the tail end of the F1 grid um, is it's a little bit jarring
Yeah.
for me. Like he should be snapped up. He's Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc level of achievement in the junior categories. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
no,
he's being snapped up by the worst performing team on the grid, and
I
that
mean,
worries me slightly.
this is the problem, but I think you're right. I mean, look, there's a volatile situation at McLaren. There is a 2 year window at Ferrari as well, right? So you would kind of want to see what these next couple of years look like. So
Yeah, but
the
you need
way
to be
I
noticed is my argument, right? And that's why I worry. You need to be
yeah,
noticed. That's why I
yeah, you're
worry.
right. I mean, but look, you can also be bad noticed too, right? So this is the pick your poison kind of thing. When you want to sit it out and there can be a question mark about your potential, or then there are
But
results
you're,
attached to you that you
yeah,
don't want to have be.
sure, but that's what Oscar Piastri did, didn't he? He sat on the sidelines for a year waiting for the Alpine seat to come up, and then he ended up at McLaren, a better seat. So would waiting for one season, which is what Franco Colapinto looks like he's going to do at Williams, waiting for a better opportunity to turn up. If Lando or Oscar get tempted away from that McLaren seat, that's a prime seat for somebody to jump into. And if Bortoletto's sitting there with his I'm a rookie F2 champion
Yeah, I don't. I mean,
credentials,
it's
does
it's
that?
really hard, right? I mean, to play carousel is really difficult because there are so many moving pieces. I mean, look, you cannot ignore the fact that Carlos Sainz has rumored an out clause on an open Red Bull or Mercedes seat, even probably a Ferrari seat in the future too. So who knows what the next year looks like? I would have personally preferred that Gabriel Bortoleto sat out and took those chances there versus going to a team like Stake, but I can't blame him for it.
Yeah,
You take a
yeah,
team
no, I
like
know, I
Stake
agree with
there and
you. I
you
agree
have
with you.
to.
Yeah, you're not going to say no. Um, but I'm just going to leave you with this. Just remember when we're talking about driver moves that Gabriel Bortoletto's current manager is none other than Fernando El Plan
Why
Alonso,
couldn't he get him a seat at Aston Martin? Like that's
the king of making dodgy career moves.
yeah, that's
Anyway,
oof.
on that one, let's leave it. As usual, please like, please subscribe, please leave us a comment. We will read all of them and we will reply to as many as we possibly can. We will see you guys in the next one.
Later.